The rain tapped against the windows of the 23rd floor, as Marina Silva nervously adjusted the blazer borrowed from her sister. It was her first day as an executive assistant at Almeida and Associates Corporation, and the knot in her stomach seemed to want to undo the breakfast she had forced herself to eat. At 28, after 2 years of unemployment, this opportunity meant much more than a salary. It was her chance to rebuild the life that had crumbled along with her failed marriage. The elevator ascended slowly, and with each floor that passed, Marina felt her heart race. She had researched the company for weeks, one of the largest financial consulting firms in the country, founded by the renowned Rafael Almeida, a 42-year-old man known both for his business success and his inflexible personality. Business magazines always portrayed him as a relentless leader, the kind who tolerated neither mediocrity nor excuses. When the doors opened on the top floor, Marina was greeted by an environment that exuded sophistication and power. Italian marble covered the floor, while contemporary artwork adorned the walls. The receptionist, an elegant middle-aged woman, greeted her with a professional smile. "You must be Marina Silva. I'm Carla, Human Resources Assistant. Mr. Almeida is expecting you in his office." Marina followed Carla down a seemingly endless hallway, where employees hurried past, all impeccably dressed and carrying an expression of absolute concentration. The atmosphere was intimidating, but also stimulating. This was the heart of a financial empire, and she would be a part of it. The double wooden doors opened, revealing an office that looked more like a living room in a palace. Behind an imposing desk, a man with graying temples typed furiously on his laptop, never once looking up to greet her. "Sit down," said Rafael Almeida, without pausing in his work. His voice was deep, filled with authority. "You have 3 minutes to convince me that I didn't make a mistake by hiring you." Marina felt the blood drain from her face. This was not a warm welcome. It was a test. She took a deep breath and decided to be honest. "Mr. Almeida, I won't lie and say I have all the experience you'd like. I was out of the market for 2 years due to personal reasons, and I know that might be seen as a weakness. But I can assure you that no one will work harder than I will to prove my worth. I need this opportunity, and you need someone who treats their work like the most important thing in the world. At this point in my life, that's exactly what it is." Finally, Rafael looked up. Marina felt as though she were being analyzed by a scanner that could read even her deepest thoughts. His eyes were a deep brown, almost black, and carried an intensity that made her feel both vulnerable and challenged. "Interesting," he murmured, closing his laptop. "Most people who sit in that chair try to impress me with lies about their qualifications. You chose vulnerability. Either you're very smart or very desperate. Maybe both," Marina replied, surprising herself with her own boldness. A barely perceptible smile played at the corner of Rafael's lips before quickly vanishing. "Your hours are from 7 in the morning to 7 at night, but know that days rarely end on time. I expect efficiency, discretion, and anticipation. I don't tolerate mistakes or excuses. Your duties include managing my schedule, screening calls, preparing reports, and accompanying me to meetings when necessary. Any questions?" "Just one. How do you like your coffee?" This time, the smile was more evident. "Strong, without sugar, in a white porcelain cup, and always arrive 15 minutes before I do." The first few days were an emotional roller coaster. Rafael Almeida was indeed as demanding as his reputation suggested. He arrived at the office at exactly 7, already expecting to find Marina organizing his schedule and with the coffee prepared just as requested. He spoke quickly, changed topics without warning, and expected her to keep up with his frantic pace. Marina adapted with a determination that surprised her. She arrived at 6:30, studied the reports from the previous day to always stay one step ahead, and developed her own system to organize her boss's chaotic demands. Rafael didn't offer compliments. He simply didn't complain when things went as expected. On the third day, during a particularly tense meeting with foreign investors, Marina noticed that Rafael was growing irritated with the delay in translation. Discreetly, she passed him a note with the key points of the discussion translated. He read it quickly, raised an eyebrow in surprise, and used the information to regain control of the meeting. When the investors left, Rafael turned to her. "Do you speak Mandarin?" and English, Spanish, and Italian. I thought it could be useful. Why didn't you mention this in the interview? Marina hesitated. You didn't ask about languages. You just wanted to know if I could do the job. Raphael studied her for a long moment. Dinner tomorrow at 8. Palazzo Restaurant. Wear something appropriate for hosting Japanese clients. You'll translate. It was the first time he invited her to something beyond the basic office functions. Marina felt a mix of pride and nervousness. That night, she spent her last savings on an elegant black dress. She knew it was a risky investment, but she also knew this might be her chance to prove that she was worth more than she had imagined. The Palazzo was one of the city's most refined restaurants. Marina arrived 15 minutes early, as always, and found Raphael already seated at a reserved table, wearing a suit that probably cost more than her 3-month salary. Timeliness. I like that, he said, standing up to pull the chair out for her. During dinner, Marina translated fluently between Portuguese and Japanese, facilitating complex discussions about investments and partnerships. More than that, she anticipated cultural misunderstandings and suggested approaches that visibly impressed the clients. When the Japanese guests left, Raphael and Marina were alone for the first time outside of the office. The silence stretched on, filled with a different kind of tension. You constantly surprise me, Raphael said, swirling the red wine in his glass. In the interview, I thought I was hiring someone desperate. I found out I hired someone exceptional. Marina felt her face flush. Thank you, Mr. Almeida. Raphael, when we're outside the office, you can call me Raphael. It was the first time he had offered that level of informality. Marina smiled, feeling as though she had won a small victory. Can I ask you a personal question, Raphael? He nodded. Why do you work so much? I mean, you've already achieved more success than most people ever dream of. What motivates you to keep up this pace? Raphael was silent for so long that Marina thought she had crossed some invisible line. Finally, he answered. When you lose everything once, you develop a constant fear of losing again. Work is the only thing I can control completely. The unexpected vulnerability in his voice touched something deep inside Marina. She recognized that fear. It was the same one that woke her up at 3 a.m. since her divorce. I understand, she said softly. Sometimes work is the only thing that keeps us standing. Raphael's eyes met hers, and for the first time, Marina saw something beyond the professional mask. She saw a man who was also trying to rebuild something that had broken. The following weeks brought a subtle but noticeable shift in the dynamic between Raphael and Marina. He began entrusting her with more responsibilities, including her in strategic meetings and asking for her opinion on important decisions. Marina, in turn, anticipated his needs with a precision that bordered on telepathy. It was a rainy Thursday when Marina noticed that Raphael seemed different. Normally impeccable, he had arrived with slightly disheveled hair and a visible tension in his shoulders. Throughout the morning, he was more abrupt than usual, dismissing important calls and avoiding eye contact. Around noon, when he abruptly canceled a meeting that had been scheduled for weeks, Marina decided to intervene. Raphael, she said, walking into his office with a cup of coffee and closing the door behind her. What's going on? Nothing that concerns you, he replied curtly, not looking up from the papers on his desk. Marina placed the coffee in front of him and sat down in the chair across from him, ignoring the surprised look she got for her boldness. It may not concern me, but when my boss is clearly in crisis, it affects our work and our team. Also, after 2 months of working together every day, I think I deserve at least a superficial explanation. Raphael finally looked at her, and Marina saw something that shocked her: genuine vulnerability. Today marks 5 years, he said after a long silence. 5 years since what? Since my wife died. The words fell like stones in the silence of the office. Marina felt her heart tighten, all the pieces of a puzzle she hadn't even realized she was putting together suddenly falling into place. Raphael, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. Cancer. 2 years of fighting, of hope, of experimental treatments. In the end, it was all for nothing. His voice was controlled, but Marina could hear the pain that still echoed after all these years. She always said I worked too much, that I was losing my life trying to build an empire. Ironically, after she died, work was the only thing that kept me from going crazy. Marina stood slowly and walked over to where he was. Without thinking about the consequences or professional propriety, she placed her hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to carry this alone," she said softly. Raphael looked at her hand on his shoulder, then up to her face. For a moment, Marina thought he would refuse the comfort, keep the professional distance that had always existed between them. Instead, he covered her hand with his. "I haven't talked about this with anyone in years," he admitted. "Maybe it's time to start." They stayed like that for several minutes, in a silence that was both comfortable and heavy at the same time. Marina felt the warmth of Raphael's hand over hers, his vulnerability creating an intimacy that transcended any professional relationship. "Marina," he finally said, his voice quieter than usual. "Yes?" "Thank you." When she returned to her desk, Marina knew that something fundamental had changed between them. Invisible lines had been crossed, and there was no going back. That evening, Raphael called her at home, something he had never done before. "Sorry to bother you after hours," he said, and Marina could hear the traffic noise in the background. "It's no bother. Is everything okay? I wanted to know if you'd like to have dinner with me. Not for work, just dinner." Marina felt her heart race. "Are you sure?" "No," he admitted, and she could hear the smile in his voice. "But I think that's part of the problem. I'm always sure about everything. Maybe it's time to try something different. Where would you like us to meet? I know a small, discreet place. Nothing fancy. Home-cooked food, peaceful atmosphere." 2 hours later, Marina found herself sitting in a small Italian restaurant in a residential neighborhood. Took a step closer. That I'm not completely in love with you. The words hung in the air between them, charged with an intensity that made Marina forget how to breathe. Raphael. I know it's crazy, he continued, now close enough for her to feel the warmth of his body. I know it could destroy everything we've built professionally, but I can't ignore it anymore. Marina slowly stood up, her eyes never leaving his. What if I tell you I feel the same way? Then we'll be in completely unknown territory, he murmured, raising his hand to gently touch her face. The first kiss was tentative, almost hesitant, as if they were both testing the waters of something they knew was irreversible. But when their lips met, all hesitation disappeared. It was a kiss that carried weeks of repressed tension, unspoken desires, and denied connections. When they finally pulled away, they were both breathless. This changes everything, Raphael said, his forehead resting against hers. I know. I don't want you to feel pressured or... Marina silenced him by placing her fingers over his lips. Raphael, stop thinking like a CEO for a minute. As a man, what do you want? He looked at her for a long moment before answering. I want you. In every possible way. I want to know your dreams, your fears, your quirks. I want to wake up beside you and fall asleep listening to your breath. I want to find out if I can be the man I was before I built all these walls. Then stop fighting it. The second kiss was different from the first. Deeper, more urgent, full of a passion they had both tried to deny for too long. When they finally separated, Raphael tangled his fingers in Marina's hair. Let's take it slow, he asked. I don't want to ruin this by being too desperate or moving too fast. Marina smiled, gently touching his face. We have all the time in the world. The following weeks were the most intense and confusing of Marina's life. During the day, she and Raphael maintained an impeccable professional facade, interacting as boss and employee. But in the hours after work, when the office emptied out, they carefully explored the first steps of a relationship that both of them knew would be revolutionary in their lives. Raphael revealed himself to be a completely different man away from the corporate world. He was attentive, funny, surprisingly vulnerable. He took Marina to places that meant something to him. The small cafe where he had his first breakfast with Clara, the park where he used to run when he needed to think, the old bookstore where he bought first editions of literary classics. Why are you showing me these places? Marina asked one Saturday afternoon, as they walked through an art gallery Raphael had been visiting for years. Because I want you to know all parts of me, he replied, stopping in front of an abstract painting in shades of blue and gray. For a long time, I compartmentalized my life. The businessman Raphael, the widowed Raphael, the lonely Raphael. With you, I feel like I can be whole again. Marina intertwined her fingers with his. And does that scare you? It terrifies me, he admitted, but at the same time, it's the first time in years that I feel truly alive. The relationship was not easy. Both carried scars from past relationships and deep fears about intimacy and vulnerability. Marina struggled with insecurities about her place in Raphael's life. Was she just a temporary distraction? A way for him to process his grief? Raphael battled guilt for moving on, as if loving again were a betrayal of Clara's memory. These issues came to the surface one particularly difficult night. They were at Raphael's apartment, the first time Marina had been there, and she noticed that there wasn't a single photo of Clara visible. Did you hide the photos because of me? She asked, sitting on the white leather sofa in the living room. Raphael, who was pouring wine, paused visibly. I didn't hide them. I kept them in the bedroom. Why? He sat down beside her, handing her a glass of red wine. Because I didn't know how you would feel seeing them. Raphael, she was your wife for 15 years. She was part of who you are today. I don't expect you to erase that history. But it's strange, isn't it? Having photos of your late wife when you're trying to build something new? Marina turned to face him fully. She's not your ex-wife. She's your wife who passed away. It's completely different. And if you think you need to erase her to be with me, then maybe we're not ready for this. The brutal honesty of Marina's words hit Raphael like a punch. He put his glass down on the coffee table and stood up, walking to the window that overlooked the city. "You're right," he said after a long silence. "I'm afraid that if I don't completely hide the past, I won't be able to fully give myself to the present." Marina walked up to him, placing her hand on his back. "Raphael, I don't want you to forget Clara. I want you to integrate the love you had for her with what you're building with me. I'm not competing with a dead woman. I'm honoring the capacity for love that she helped you develop." Raphael turned to her, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. "How do you manage to be so wise?" "Because I've already been through my own hell of trying to forget the past instead of making peace with it," she replied. "When my marriage ended, I tried to erase all the years I spent with my ex-husband. It took me a while to realize that those years, even the bad ones, were part of who I became. I can't deny them without denying a part of myself." That night, Raphael brought a photo of Clara from the drawer of the dresser, a portrait of her smiling on a beach, her blonde hair blowing in the wind. "She was beautiful," Marina said, studying the photo. "She was, and smart, and brave, and as stubborn as a mule," Raphael said, a sad smile playing on his lips. "I think you two would have gotten along. Tell me about her, for real." And Raphael did. He spoke about how they met in college, the early years of marriage when they were still young and idealistic, how Clara supported him when he decided to start his own company. He spoke about the dreams they had of having children, about the trips they took around the world, about how she used to force him to stop working on weekends. "She used to say I had a talent for making money, but I needed to learn how to live," Raphael said. "In the end, when we learned of the diagnosis, she made me promise I wouldn't let work become my only reason for existing. And did you keep that promise?" Raphael laughed bitterly. "Until you showed up, I had failed miserably." Marina took his hand. "Then maybe she sent me to remind you." It was the first time Raphael cried in front of Marina, tears of grief, relief, and gratitude for finding someone who understood that loving again didn't mean forgetting. The relationship between Raphael and Marina had found a delicate yet growing rhythm. They had known each other for 4 months, been unofficially dating for 6 weeks, and Marina felt like she had discovered a completely different man behind the mask of the relentless executive. Raphael laughed at her bad jokes, surprised her with small romantic gestures, and had started sharing not only his fears, but also his dreams for the future. But real life has a cruel way of interrupting the fairy tales in progress. It was a rainy Monday when Marina arrived at the office and found Raphael on the phone, speaking in a tone she hadn't heard in weeks. Cold, calculating, completely professional. When he hung up, his face was tense. "Trouble?" she asked, placing the coffee on his desk. "Petromineral wants to cancel the contract. 3 years of work, 12 million in revenue." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of frustration Marina had learned to recognize. "Apparently, there are rumors about my personal life that are making some clients question my professionalism." Marina felt her blood run cold. "What kind of rumors?" "That I'm involved with my secretary, that I've lost focus, that I'm no longer reliable to handle large-scale investments." The words hit Marina like physical slaps. "Raphael, it's not your fault," he said quickly, but Marina could see the tension in every line of his body. "But we need to be more careful, at least until I can control the damage." In the following days, Raphael reverted to the distant professional boss Marina had known on the first day. He avoided prolonged eye contact, kept conversations strictly professional, and canceled the dinners and meetings that had become part of their routine. Marina tried to understand. She really did. She knew the company was Raphael's life, that he had built everything from scratch and couldn't afford to lose it. But the sudden coldness after weeks of growing intimacy hurt her in a way she hadn't anticipated. The situation worsened when Carla from Human Resources appeared at her desk on a Thursday afternoon. "Marina, I need to speak with you. Privately." In Carla's office, the conversation was direct and brutal. "There have been complaints about your professional conduct," Carla said, consulting a file. "Apparently you've crossed professional boundaries with Mr. Almeida." "What kind of complaints?" Marina asked, struggling to keep her voice steady. Closed meetings too long, presence at social events with no professional need, excessive familiarity. Carla looked at her with an expression that blended sympathy and disapproval. Marina, you are a competent employee, but I need to remind you that romantic relationships between supervisors and subordinates are complicated at this company. Marina knew she should deny everything, maintain the professional facade, protect both her career and Raphael's. Instead, she heard herself asking, "Did these complaints come from Mr. Almeida?" Carla's hesitation was answer enough. "I need you to be more cautious from now on," Carla said finally, "for your own good." When Marina returned to her desk, her hands were shaking. Had Raphael fueled the rumors about them? Had he asked the HR department to deal with the situation? She waited until the end of the day when the office emptied to confront him. "Did you speak with Carla about us?" she asked, walking into his office without knocking. Raphael looked up from his computer, and Marina immediately saw the guilt on his face. "Marina, did you ask her to warn me?" Her voice came out louder than she intended. "After everything we've shared, you decided I was a problem to be managed?" Raphael stood up, walking around the desk to approach her. "It wasn't like that. I was trying to protect you. Protect or get rid of?" "Protect," he exploded. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. I lost 2 contracts this week. There are rumors that some investors are considering pulling their funds, all because some people decided my personal life interferes with my professional judgment. And does it?" The question hung in the air like a blade. Raphael stared at her for a long moment before answering. "I don't know," he admitted. "For the first time in years, there's something in my life more important than work. That scares me." Marina felt tears burning in her eyes. "So you decided the solution was to push me away?" "I decided I needed time to think. Without consulting me. Without giving me the chance to have a say in my own life." Raphael ran his hand over his face, visibly exhausted. "Marina, you don't understand. If I lose this company, I have nothing left. It's all I have left of who I was. And me? Am I nothing?" "You're everything," he said, his voice breaking. "That's exactly the problem. I don't know how to balance this." Marina took a deep breath, struggling to control her emotions. "Raphael, if you can't trust me enough to face problems together, then maybe we don't have what I thought we had." "It's not about trust. It's exactly about trust. You treated me like a problematic employee instead of the woman you say you love. You made decisions about our relationship without including me. That's not partnership, Raphael. That's control." Raphael tried to move closer, but Marina stepped back. "I need time to think too," she said, "about whether I want to be with someone who sees me as a risk to be managed instead of as a partner." The following days were the hardest Marina had faced since the divorce. She and Raphael maintained a cold, professional cordiality at the office, but the tension was palpable. Marina could feel the curious stares from her colleagues, the conversations that stopped when she approached, the general discomfort her situation had created. For 3 days, she considered quitting. It would be easier, cleaner. But something inside her refused to run away. She had worked too hard to get where she was, and she wasn't going to throw it all away because of a complicated relationship. It was Raphael who broke the deadlock. On Thursday night, as Marina was preparing to leave, he appeared at her desk. "I need to talk to you, please." She followed him to his office in silence. When the door closed, Raphael turned to her with an expression that mixed determination and vulnerability. "You were right," he said without preamble. "About everything. I acted like a coward, treated you like a problem instead of a partner, and made decisions that affected our relationship without consulting you." Marina crossed her arms, still on the defensive. "So what? So I've spent the last 3 days realizing that I'd rather lose the company than lose you." The words hit her with unexpected force. "Raphael, no, let me finish. I built this company as a fortress against the world, as a way to protect myself from further loss. But you've shown me that a life without risks isn't really a life, it's just existence." He took a step closer, and this time Marina didn't step back. "I spoke with all the clients who were having doubts. I was honest about my personal situation. I told them that I'm in love with an extraordinary woman, and that doesn't change my professional competence, it just makes me more human. Marina's eyes widened. You did what? I risked everything, because you're worth more than any contract. And what did they say? Raphael smiled for the first time in days. Half thought I'd gone mad. The other half said it was about time I acted like a normal human being. 3 contracts were canceled. 2 new ones were offered by people who respected my honesty. Marina felt her legs weaken. Raphael, you didn't have to. I did. I had to prove to you and to myself that you're not a risk to be managed. You're the best thing that's happened to me in years, and I almost ruined everything out of fear. He took her hands in his. Marina, I'm not asking for you to forgive me right away. I know I broke your trust, but I'm asking for a chance to earn it back. A chance to prove that I can be the partner you deserve. Marina looked into his eyes and saw genuine sincerity, real vulnerability, and something that made her believe that maybe, just maybe, they could overcome this. It's going to take time, she said finally. I have all the time in the world. And total transparency. No more unilateral decisions. I promise. And you're going to have to meet my family. My mom's a terror, and my dad's going to want to know your intentions. Raphael laughed, a genuine warm sound that Marina had missed. I'm ready for anything. Marina took a step closer. Even to face the rumors and judgments? Especially for that. I'm tired of hiding what I feel for you. When they kissed, it was different from all the other times. There was no hesitation, no fear of consequences. It was a kiss of new beginnings, of promises, of 2 adults who had decided that love was worth any risk. The following months tested Raphael and Marina's resolve in every imaginable way. The decision to make their relationship public brought both positive and negative consequences. Some clients respected their honesty, while others felt uncomfortable with the situation. Business media picked up the story, creating articles about love in the corporate world that ranged from romantic to skeptical. Marina insisted on being transferred to another department to avoid direct conflicts of interest, taking on a position as an international relations manager, a role that fully utilized her linguistic and diplomatic skills. Raphael supported the decision, even though it meant they would no longer work side by side every day. It's better this way, Marina said one evening while they were having dinner at home. They had started alternating between each other's apartments. I want our relationship to be respected, not questioned. I miss having you around all day, Raphael admitted. But now when we see each other, it's because we choose to be together, not because it's mandatory. The change brought a new and healthy dynamic. Marina flourished in her new position, developing international partnerships that impressed the entire board. Raphael, relieved from the constant worry about appearances, visibly relaxed at work. But the real test came when Marina decided it was time for Raphael to meet her family. They live in Campos dos Goitacazes, she explained one Saturday morning. My dad is retired from Petrobras. My mom is a teacher. I have 2 younger siblings. João is a doctor. Patricia is a lawyer. Everyone is going to want to interrogate you. Are you trying to scare me? I'm trying to prepare you. My family is intense, especially after my divorce. They got very protective. The 3-hour trip to Marina's hometown was filled with nervousness. Raphael, who faced boardrooms and billionaire investors without flinching, was genuinely anxious about meeting his girlfriend's parents. The Silva family home was everything Raphael hadn't expected. Small, cozy, with a flower garden that Marina's mother lovingly tended to. Donna Helena was a woman in her early 50s with gray hair tied in a bun, who embraced Raphael with a warmth that surprised him. So, you're the man who won our Marina's heart, she said, studying him with sharp eyes. I hope you know the treasure you have in your hands. So Antonio was more reserved, greeting Raphael with a firm handshake and an evaluative look. During lunch, he asked direct questions about Raphael's intentions, how he treated Marina, and his plans for the future. Dad, Marina protested, visibly embarrassed. Let him speak, Raphael said, placing his hand over Marina's. Your father has every right to ask these questions. He turned to So Antonio. Sir, I won't lie and say our situation is simple. We have a difference in age. social standing, life experiences. But I can promise you that I love your daughter more than I thought it was possible to love again. She has made me want to be a better man, and I intend to spend the rest of my life proving that I am worthy of her." The silence that followed was broken by Patricia, Marina's sister. "Wow, he's good at this," she said, causing everyone to laugh. During the afternoon, Rafael helped Seu Antonio fix a gate in the backyard, listened to stories about Marina's childhood told by Dona Helena, and played soccer with João in the vacant lot behind the house. By the time evening came, it was clear that he had earned the family's approval. "He's different from what I expected," Patricia said to Marina when they were alone in the kitchen. "More human." "What did you expect? An arrogant businessman who thought money solves everything. Instead, I found a man who clearly adores you and is genuinely interested in being a part of our messy family." On the way back, Marina was beaming. "They loved you," she said, snuggling into the passenger seat. "And I loved them. Now I understand where your strength and authenticity come from. You had a family that loved you unconditionally. And now you have one too," Marina said softly. Rafael had to pull the car over to the shoulder because his tears were blocking his vision. He wasn't crying out of sadness, but out of a happiness so intense that he didn't know how to contain it. The following year of their relationship brought not only joys but also unexpected challenges. Rafael and Marina had learned to navigate the complexities of a public relationship, but they still struggled with deeper issues concerning compatibility and future expectations. The issue came to the surface one winter evening when they were at Rafael's apartment discussing plans for the end-of-year holidays. "We could go to that inn in Buzios you mentioned," Rafael suggested, flipping through a travel catalog. "Or we could do something different," Marina said, hesitating. "Something more meaningful." Rafael looked at her with curiosity. "What do you have in mind?" Marina took a deep breath. "I want to take you to some places from my childhood. Places that were important to me when I was a kid. And, well, there's something I've never told you about why my previous marriage ended." Rafael closed the catalog, giving her his full attention. "Rodrigo, my ex-husband, never wanted children," Marina began, her voice growing quieter. "I thought he would change his mind over time, but after 5 years he made it clear that he would never be a father. He said that kids would mess up our plans, our freedom, our financial stability." Rafael remained silent, sensing there was more to come. "I got pregnant in our 6th year of marriage," Marina continued, tears starting to form in her eyes. "It was accidental, but when I saw the positive test, I felt a happiness I'd never experienced before. I thought Rodrigo would be surprised, but eventually accept it." "What happened?" "He gave me an ultimatum. Either I terminated the pregnancy, or he would file for divorce." Marina's voice broke. "I chose the baby." Rafael felt as though he had been punched in the stomach. "Marina, I lost the baby in the 12th week. A miscarriage. Rodrigo said it was a sign that we shouldn't have children anyway. I never forgave him for that. We ended up getting divorced 6 months later." Rafael moved closer, pulling her into his arms. "Why didn't you tell me this?" "Because I'm afraid of your reaction. I'm 30, Rafael. I want children, I want a family. And you've already had your years of wanting to build a family. You've had your great love, you've made your plans. I don't know if there's space for those dreams in your life." Rafael held her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. "Marina, Clara and I tried to have children for years. We went through treatments, tried IVF, went through every imaginable procedure. We never succeeded. When she died, I thought that dream died with her. And now? Now I realize that maybe the dream didn't die. Maybe it was just waiting for the right person to bring it back to life." Marina looked at him with a mixture of hope and disbelief. "You're saying you want to have children with me? I'm saying I want everything with you. Children, family, a lifetime of discoveries and building together. I didn't know I wanted that until you came into my life." The kiss that followed was filled with tears, hopes, and silent promises. When they separated, Marina smiled through her tears. "So you want to visit the orphanage where I volunteered as a teenager? And the school where I taught English? I want to know everything that shaped the extraordinary woman you've become. During the end-of-year holidays, they took the trip Marina had proposed. They visited the orphanage where she had spent entire afternoons reading to underprivileged children, the rural school where she had volunteered teaching English, the small library where she had discovered her love for literature. At each place, Raphael saw new facets of Marina, her compassion, her dedication to the less fortunate, her ability to connect with people of all ages. More than that, he saw the kind of mother she would be, the kind of person he would want as a partner in raising their children. On the last night of the trip, as they walked along the beach where Marina used to go as a child to think about the future, Raphael stopped suddenly. "Marina?" "Yes?" He knelt in the sand, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "I know it's early. I know we still have a lot to discover about each other. But I also know that I want to discover all of that as your husband, as the father of your children, as your partner in all the adventures life has in store for us." Marina placed her hands on her face, unable to believe what she was seeing. "Marina Silva, will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, then repeated louder. "Yes." The ring, a sleek but unassuming solitaire, fit perfectly on her finger. When they kissed, the waves of the sea licked their feet, as if the ocean itself was blessing their union. Raphael and Marina's wedding was a celebration that perfectly reflected their journey, a blend of elegance and simplicity, tradition and modernity, family and work. They decided on a two-part ceremony, an intimate one for family and close friends at Marina's hometown church, followed by a larger reception in São Paulo for colleagues and business partners. On the morning of the wedding, Marina woke up at her parents' house, in the same room from her childhood. Donna Helena helped her into the dress, a classic French lace model that Marina had chosen for its elegance without being extravagant. "You look radiant," her mother said, adjusting the veil. "I've never seen you this happy." "I've never been this happy," Marina replied. "Mom, thank you for teaching me to never give up on my dreams. Thank you for finding a man who deserves you." On the other side of the city, Raphael was getting ready with the help of João, Marina's brother, who had volunteered to be his best man. "Nervous?" João asked, helping Raphael with his tie. "Terrified," Raphael admitted. "Not about the wedding, but about the possibility of not being the husband she deserves. Man, you've spent the last year and a half proving that you deserve my sister. Now you just have to keep doing that for the next 50 years. Raphael laughed, feeling calmer. "When you put it that way, it sounds easy." The ceremony was perfect in its simplicity. Marina walked down the aisle escorted by her father, who whispered in her ear, "He's a good man, daughter. You made a good choice." When Raphael saw Marina walking toward him, he felt his heart almost explode with happiness. She was absolutely stunning, but more than that, she was radiant with a happiness that spread to everyone around her. The vows they exchanged were personal, written by themselves. "Marina," said Raphael, his voice emotional, "you've taught me that it's possible to start over without forgetting the past, that it's possible to love again without betraying old memories. I promise to be your partner in all your dreams, your support in all storms, and your biggest admirer in all your achievements. I promise to build with you a family based on love, respect, and the complicity we've found in each other." "Raphael," Marina replied, tears streaming down her face, "you've shown me that it's worth waiting for true love, that it's possible to find someone who accepts us completely. I promise to be your confidant in all your fears, your partner in all your adventures, and your biggest encourager in all your challenges. I promise to build with you a life full of meaning, purpose, and so much love." When the priest declared them husband and wife, the kiss was met with emotional applause from all the guests. Even Seu Antonio, known for his seriousness, was visibly moved. The reception in São Paulo a week later was a more formal event, but no less meaningful. Raphael had insisted on inviting all the employees from the company, from the cleaning staff to the management. "This company is our professional family," he explained to Marina. "I want everyone to share in our happiness." During dinner, Raphael gave a speech that surprised everyone. 2 years ago, I was a man who had forgotten how to be happy. I worked obsessively, keeping safe distances from anything that could hurt me again. Then Marina came into my life, not just as an exceptional employee, but as a woman who challenged me to be better, to feel more, to live truly. He turned to Marina, who was sitting beside him at the main table. My love, you didn't just become my wife. You brought me back to myself. And I promise that we will build a life that honors both our individual dreams and our shared dreams. Epilogue. 3 years later, Marina placed her hand on her 6-month belly, feeling the baby move restlessly. From the office at home that she and Raphael had set up when they discovered her pregnancy, she could see the garden they had planted together. White roses that bloomed year-round, a small vegetable garden where they grew herbs, and a swing that Raphael had installed for the future. "How's our little adventurer today?" Raphael asked, entering the office with 2 cups of tea. "Restless. I think he inherited your work energy," Marina replied, gratefully accepting the tea. "Or your stubbornness," Raphael retorted, kissing her forehead. They had bought a house in a residential neighborhood, far from the hustle and bustle of downtown. It was a place where they could have privacy, but also where they could raise a family. Raphael had reduced his workload, delegating more responsibilities to his team. Marina continued working, but now as a freelance consultant, giving her the flexibility to focus on the family they were building. "We got confirmation today," Marina said, showing him a letter. "The adoption request was approved. After the baby is born, we can start the process to adopt an older child." Raphael smiled, remembering the conversation they had had months ago about having a big family, about giving love not just to biological children, but also to children who needed a home. "2 kids in 1 year," he said. "Do you think we're crazy?" "Completely, but it's the best kind of crazy I've ever experienced." Raphael kneeled beside her chair, placing his hand on her belly. "Thank you," he said softly. "For what?" "For giving me a second chance at love. For showing me that it's possible to rebuild a life even better than the one before. For making me a father when I thought that dream had died." Marina intertwined her fingers in his hair. "Thank you for showing me that true love is worth waiting for. For giving me a family, a career, a life that's better than anything I could have ever dreamed." As the sun set through the office windows, Raphael and Marina stayed there, planning for the future, celebrating the present, and grateful to have found in each other not just a romantic partner, but a true life companion. The improbable love between boss and employee had become the foundation of a family, a shared life, and a future full of possibilities. And they both knew that, no matter the challenges life might bring, they would face everything together, just as they always had since that first day when Marina Silva walked into Rafael Almeida's office and changed both of their lives forever.